What I did, like, I started kind of at the top, or maybe at the bottom, either way you look at it, was at Sullivan and Cromwell, which was where the Dulles brothers were. I told you that. There's Alan Dulles and John Foster, right? And you've got basically, Dulles Airport, right, in D.C. Okay, if that could kind of give you a little hook or something. And so the elevator doors would open up with J. Edgar Hoover's picture in the middle with either one of the Dulles brothers on either side, right?
Okay.
And it wasn't even kitsch, right? It wasn't even a joke. It was like, this is the real thing, right? This ain't no disco, right? This ain't no party. So it was just huge amounts of just really, it's funny because what I used to say all the time was just, you can't be too cynical. You cannot be too cynical if you're in that particular world, right? Because, I can't tell you, because they made us, they fingerprint you and they do all this stuff. But anyway, at one point I was, taken to Russia when I was 14, and I've always kind of wondered what was that all about, and did I somehow mess up? Because it's been a really hard life, right? After that, we did move. After I came back from and it was called the Soviet Union then. It was in 1976.
Okay.
And after coming back from there, we moved to North Shore of Chicago to this school called New Trier East, which was the #1 high school in America at that time. So it was sort of weird to be transferred there. And yet when I got there, I was heavily drugged. Heavily drugged. And that's always kind of been disturbing. Like you wouldn't believe. And I was only and I had just come back from the Soviet Union.
Right.
And so that was kind of a huge thing in and of itself. No one else was my age there either. There was one guy on the plane, on the trip, that was a little bit my age. He might have been
could have been recruited into one of their programs.
Around 20 or so. And supposedly he had been a dishwasher and just had saved up money to go on a trip to Russia, which had only just opened up, which seemed a little bit strange.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in this lobby, getting off of Aeroflot, and go driving through the night because the hotel was really far from Moscow. It all happened in winter, by the way. It was a weird time to go there. It was there was no sun. It was sub-zero temperatures. But it was rather maybe dramatic and beautiful. But and I felt like I met Michael Caine there. I remember there was a lot of chaos at the hotel, and just sitting in this lobby, and everyone kind of just sort of watching it all. And I've been up forever and just sitting on a suitcase. And I remember this Englishman coming up to me and sitting there and kind of saying, "Oh, nothing seems to concern you with it. You seem perfect." And I think I was perfectly happy. I think I thought, well, where else would I be, right?
Sure.
Maybe at school or some stupid thing. I mean, I'm in Russia, right? I mean,
sure,
it's a big deal.
Your mind is
open
open.
for the ride.
Yeah.
It was very open, and I was 15, and just not even 15 yet, 14, and years later, I don't know, I've always thought that Englishman was like Michael Caine or something. It was weird. And I think I saw something recently that he had gone over there, when it first opened up, and he was talking about it. But it doesn't even matter who it was. It was definitely someone so M16-ish or something. Someone just so British and so, And then right after that, someone came and said, "It's going to be a long wait. You don't want to be down in the lobby." And I remember going up to the bar on the top floor, which was weird because I was 14. I'm not drinking age, and I'm at this bar at the top of the Rosia Hotel, and no one else was in there. That's what was weird too, was it was empty. So the lobby is completely jammed with people, and on the top there were only 2 other people. One, and somebody whispered to me who they were, which was weird, gave me the heads up. And one of them was this guy from Mexico, like some billionaire from Mexico, and they were like, you know, he has so many cars, like they're all kept in San Diego.
You were a young spy.
And the other person he was with was an Arab. And then I remember being taken from that bar to another bar that was underground across town that looked like, and I was 14. What was I doing in bars at 14, right? Why wasn't I at school in Russia, right? With nobody was going there, right?
Right.
Who the hell was there, right? And then at this other bar, it was, it looked kind of Greek inside, like it was underground, but it had like these kind of like white stucco walls, like kind of pretty and cavish. It didn't seem Russian necessarily, it almost felt Mediterranean or Middle Eastern. It was very beautiful. It kind of candles in these recessed walls and very kind of cavernous rooms, you know, room to room. And weirdly, I know it was a bar, but it was mainly all Arabs. And I met a Frenchman, and I remember these Arabs were trying to give me cigarettes, which was weird. I was 14 and I didn't smoke. And they were really angry that I wouldn't smoke the cigarettes. Like they were really offended. It was like I had really deeply offended their culture or something. It was like a really weird thing, you know. And then I have to go pretty soon, but coming back from Russia, there was kind of a weird thing where we showed up like really late at night in New York. Most of the plane had emptied out in Baltimore. We'd actually gone Moscow, Baltimore, and then just like the tail end in New York at like very late hour, and there were no hotels that had a vacancy. It was a really weird experience of like being disoriented from being in Russia to then being disoriented in New York where there were no hotels or anything. And then the only place was the Men's Athletic Club on Wall Street, right down by Wall Street on Battery Park. And there was like, but she's a female, and that's like against club rules.
Right.
And yet it was like, if she dies,
Oh, sure.
you know, so they kind of were forced to through a Good Sam kind of law.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember it was like very anonymous room that I stayed in. There was nothing special or fancy. I was thinking about that, like maybe you could do things to people there and they wouldn't be able to say like, oh, look at there was that painting or something. It's like almost like the why. And yet in the morning when I went down to breakfast, it was like being in India, like in the 20s. It was like all oak walls, you know, and the view was of the wall of the stock exchange, right? And everything was like green mohair couches, and yeah, it was just like very grand, like over the top. And I just remember all these men just furious that I was there. Like I looked so out of place, right? What's a 14-year-old girl doing in the men's athletic club thing, right? And they're all with their newspapers. So it's been a weird life. Forrest Gumpish somehow. What am I doing here? Do you know what I'm saying? Or what am I doing here without really having a lot of knowledge or something as to why exactly? You know? So that's kind of a little bit.